Our attention tonight is on how to tame the rising activities of insurgents and bandits in Nigeria. Tonight, we shall be speaking with Governor of Zamfara. And the planned review of Telecom tariff gets a lot of Nigerians talking, and now that will impact on the monies in their pockets. The Minister of Communication will also be speaking with us on the program. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Okimbaloe. Today, in most parts of Nigeria, memories of those who have been killed, the fallen heroes, are honored for their dedication and sacrifice. The nation stood still to honor the unmatched patriotism and sacrifices of fallen heroes on the occasion of the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. The Vice President Kashim Shettima represented President Bola Tinubu, who was being away attending the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week in the UAE. Aside from Vice President Shettima, other members of the cabinet were present to honor the fallen heroes and their families with a laying of wreaths, among other military rituals, including gun salute. Tonight, our attention is on very, very major national issue. But before we get into that, let's have you with some of your political roundup stories.
The Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, has commended the security agencies in the state for maintaining the peace and keeping the state safe for economic activities to thrive. The governor stated this at the grand finale of the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Day, held at the Remembrance Arcade, Government House, Ogidi, Ibadan. The Anambra State government has concluded its 2025 Executive Council retreat in Awka, the state capital. State Governor Chukwuma Soludo, who led the members of the State Executive Council and mayors of the 21 local government areas, notes that the 2025 retreat marks a significant milestone in his administration's quest to drive progress, innovation and growth for better Anambra State. To Rivers State, where the executives of the Rivers State chapter of the People's Democratic Party is asking its members to remain calm as the process is ongoing to challenge the court ruling which restrained them from parading themselves as party officials in the state. At a news conference in Port Harcourt, the former publicity secretary of the party in the state, Mr. Kenneth Yowika, notes that the party officials have obeyed the judgment of the Federal High Court and have since instructed their lawyers to appeal the ruling. Meanwhile, the former PDP Rivers West Senatorial District Vice Chairman, Mr. Nnamdi Ewo, has emerged as the new chairman of the party in the state. Addressing the news conference in Port Harcourt, Mr. Ewo notes that Aaron Chukwuemeka and his colleagues aren't PDP members. He further explained that the party structure has been returned to the original owners, with Governor Fubara as the party leader.
All right, tonight we need to have a reminder of a very major issue in the country today. Well, something we all need to be reminded of, and here is our lest we forget for tonight. And so, Mr. President, on May 29, 2023, you stood before Nigerians with a solemn promise, and I quote, "Security shall be the top priority of our administration because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amidst insecurity and violence." Lest we forget, you vowed to reform our security doctrine and architecture, pledging better training, equipment, and pay for our security personnel. But as we cross into the second year of your administration, the stark reality is that parts of northern Nigeria remain under siege. In Borno State, an ambush claimed the lives of soldiers and militants, a tragic reminder of the unyielding threat posed by extremist groups. In Abuja, a bomb explosion at a school left about 2 people dead and others injured, a chilling echo of the insecurity that continues to haunt the nation. Lest we forget, Nigerians believed your words because They long for a leader who not only speaks of action but delivers it. Lest we forget, insecurity is not just a statistic. It is a fear of children walking to school, farmers harvesting their crops, and traders traveling to markets. Your pledge to reform security was not just a line in an inaugural address. It was a contract with the Nigerian people. But contract must be fulfilled and promises must be kept. The people do not demand miracles, but they do demand urgency. Reform must move from rhetoric to reality. Better training, advanced equipment, and robust welfare for security personnel must become the bedrock of a new security order that you promised, Mr. President. It is time to lead with the resolve that you have promised us on the first day of your office, for neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amidst insecurity and violence. Lest we forget, history will remember not the promises made, but the results delivered. The time to act is now. We're just reminding you, Mr. President, lest we forget. Tonight, let's jump and take an advantage, since we have over the broadband the governor of Zamfara State, who has in the last few days been dealing with a few issues. And we'll come back to the studio to discuss with the Minister of Communications about broadband issues. Governor Lawal is live for us from Zamfara. Happy New Year, and it's good to see you, Governor.
Happy New Year, Sharon. How are you?
I'm all right. Let's begin. What exactly are the issues? Because we are hearing conflicting issues as regarding the airstrike incident in your state. And we do know that top military officers are on the ground to look at what is going on. What can you tell us from the purview of the government of the state?
Well, thank you very much, Sharon. Like you rightly mentioned, we've been battling issues within the last 3 days as a result of the air strike that hit some individuals in 2 of our local government communities. That is in Zurmi and one of the local governments, and that was as a result of the strike by the Air Force. Let me say this, as a governor, I had full information as regard to what happened on that fateful day, because we made a distress call to the Air Force in terms of some bandits that were attacking communities. And they quickly responded, and they were able to neutralize a lot of bandits. However, on the second time, when we made the same report, the same Air Force came back. Unfortunately, as at that time, there was some, what we call the CPG and some of those communities that also came to rescue those under attack. And in the process, they were hit by the Air Force. And I believe that was not intentional. It was one of those things that in this kind of situation, sometimes there may be some collateral damage. And that was exactly what happened within the last 3 days.
How then are you handling this situation? Because you've emphasized that collateral damage is often an unintended consequence. How do you explain to these affected families, and how are they coping? Have you seen them? Have you been able to interact with them, though?
Yes, what I did was to set a very powerful delegation led by my deputy governor, who was there to do on-the-spot assessment and also be able to commiserate with the families of those that lost their lives. And in the process, this whole thing was fully explained. And they quite understood that it was not intentional. It was in the process of fighting these bandits, they were struck. And they fully understood. But the good thing also, the Chief of Air Staff have set up a committee, a very powerful committee that came to Zamfara yesterday, first to commiserate with the state government as well as the people that were affected. And they also went there yesterday to do on-the-spot assessment to see who and who was involved and what happened in order to guide against future occurrence of such attack.
Now, let's look at the area. One will imagine that the operation in that area was specific and perhaps targeted. What would you say that the area looked like? It can give one an imagination of what was on the mind of the operatives and perhaps the error that happened there. Is that an enclave of these insurgents or these bandits?
Well, Sherwin is an area where I can say those bandits hibernate. And that is an area we have constant attack from this bandit. That is around Zurmi and very close to Maradi. It's between a border of Zurmi local government and Maradi local government. And it's not a very, very clear area, because of the nature of the terrain. It's a hilly environment. And therefore, in most cases, looking at how they operate the Air Force, it will be very difficult from that far to determine who was actually there at the point in time. And that was exactly what happened. And like I said, it wasn't intentional. And we have to deal with the situation as it is. And we truly commiserate with the people of that area. And we had fully explained what government is doing in order to secure their life. But in the process, mistakes do happen. But the most important thing is, what do we do to guide future occurrence of such? And that is exactly what the Air Force are doing in conjunction or in relationship with the state government. And it's an ongoing process as we speak.
Now, there will be definitely fears, and those who are near or far to these communities would then have some fears, because when they're, and these are people who are perhaps going about their normal daily innocent activities, and then they are affected. There are those who will believe that maybe civilians are not safe. The question here will be, were you aware that there was going to be a strike on operation of the military before this happened?
I was fully informed. In fact, I was the one that called the Air Force to inform them of the bandit attack in that community. So we're fully aware, and it's part of their quick response in order to save the situation. And they did their best. The first strike, they were able to take out a lot of bandits. And then they came back for the second time after we reported to them. And what they saw was a movement of people on motorcycles carrying guns, and they were mistaken for bandits.
Okay, so there are those who will say maybe we need some more intelligence to carry out this kind of coordinated and targeted operations by the military. Are you involved? Because I know you set up a group of locals as a first layer of defense for the people of Zamfara state. Is there a synergy with the local security initiative that you set up and the joint task force or the military in general? Is there kind of synergy? Do they work on the same template? Do they have perhaps some digital way of coordinating some of this offensive?
Sherwin, part of the successes we are recording today in terms of this fight against banditry is because of the synergy between the military as well as the state government and the community protection guard that are the first line of defense that was set up sometimes last year by my administration. So yes, there's a complete synergy between the CPG and the armed forces, or rather all the security agencies that are operating in Zamfara state. And like I said, we made this distress call because of the attack of certain communities, and the Air Force responded quickly. In the process, yes, certain communities were hit, which was not intentional. And we are looking at the situation so as to guard against future occurrence of this kind of event. It wasn't just civilian, it was the civilian JTF. They were hit. They were mistaken for bandit. And it was within the same area that they struck the first time. Those people actually came to rescue those under attack. That was what happened, and that was the incident that took place.
Tungakara is not far from some of these farming communities. And I do know that you have taken up an initiative for agriculture in Zamfara State. My worry is the impact on these on harvest. What are you doing immediately to salvage the situation?
No. I mean, we're busy around the state, not just in one local government. Almost in all the local government, we provide security agencies to take care of the farmers who are harvesting their crops. And they are doing wonderfully. I can say that the security situation in Zamfara has improved drastically. What I want is to maintain the tempo so that this thing will become history within the shortest possible time in Zamfara State and part of northern Nigeria.
I know that yourself and some of your colleague governors have submitted your propositions for state policing. Now, in your mind, if you have your way and if you have the powers, all the 100% power to protect the citizens of Zamfara, what would you do differently?
Well, if I will have the complete power to be in charge of all the security operatives in my state, like I said in my recent interview or previous interview, this banditry issue, within 1 month, we should be able to take them out. It's not impossible.
So I'm talking about strategy. You have it in your mind, and you know the nook and cranny. You are Zamfara born, flesh, blood, and in spirit. You know your people very well. You know all the local government areas. You know the soft spots. You know the vulnerable spots in the state. So I'm asking, strategically speaking, and I don't know what you have put in your proposition, in your own proposal at the national level, at NEC, what exactly would you do differently in terms of architecture, in terms of recruitment, in terms of remuneration? What would you do differently to have a change if you have your way 100%?
Well, Sherwin, is a combination of so many factors, like you mentioned. One, of course, training is key, planning is key, support is key in terms of, the kind of remuneration that you're giving to the security forces in order to encourage them. In fact, insurance is also key. In the event that somebody is killed, at least insurance will cover everything for him, and he doesn't have to, be worried about his family being left behind. So, it's a total overhaul of the system. And I believe if we're able to do that, it will go a long way in boosting the morale of our security operatives to handle this kind of situation effectively without any fear.
Give us an understanding about these bandit leaders. Up to now, we see bail authority is still nowhere in sight. Does that give you any kind of worry, though?
Well, I believe bail liturgy is just a matter of time. His days are numbered because I can see the commitment from the armed forces in terms of taking bail liturgy out. In fact, that same axis where the incident took place is actually the axis of bail liturgy. And I'm sure now bail liturgy is is hiding somewhere, but it's just a matter of time. We will get him very, very soon. I'm confident, I'm optimistic, and I believe the armed forces also, this time around, they are ready to do that. And that was exactly what we've been talking about all these days, all these years, so that at least they remain committed in fighting this menace.
I imagine that based on your background from the private sector, interestingly, I have the Minister of Communications here, who might be sharing some ideas on how you can digitally protect your state. But because of your background also, you might have an idea of how digital security might work in your state, considering the vast areas, the landmass, and the borders of your state. And considering the fact also that your state borders, other states that are suffering or battling some kind of insecurity problems. The issue of border control is a big issue. How do you digitally monitor are you thinking in that direction? Because it's almost difficult or almost impossible to man every inch of the borders of the state?
Let me make a categorical statement here, Sherwood. Even though I may not be able to tell you the details, because of the nature of security, but I will tell you that confidently, technology is the key in fighting banditry, and we've gone far. We've made so much investment in the area of technology to fight this menace. And I can also say that it's one of the reasons why now we're recording so many successes in terms of fighting this banditry in Zamfara state and some of the neighboring states.
So let me ask, do you have some central monitoring mechanism such that in the state capital, you can almost have your eyes on what is going on? I know in some other countries, you saw the operations, how they took out some of the terrorist leader. When America wanted to fight some of the terrorist leader, they sat there in D.C., and the commander-in-chief was sitting right behind the generals, and we're making order. And at the point when they wanted to take out the terrorist leader, they made that order away, kilometers away. Do you have that kind of technology at the moment in Zamfara?
Sharon, we have gone far as technology is concerned in fighting banditry. Like I said, it's one of the reasons why we're recording so much successes in this fight against bandits. Part of the reason why we're able to give information to the Air Force is because of the investment in technology, and that is yielding positive results. That is all I can say in the media right now. But yes, we've gone far on that.
I know you are choosing your words because of the situation, but all right then. Let's go on a short break, everyone. But when we return, of course, we'll conclude our conversation with the Zamfara State Governor. And don't forget, the Minister of Communications, Dr. Boson Tijani, is with me in the studio, and we'll be right back, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. The governor of Zamfara State, Governor Lawal, has been speaking with us. So the question I was asking earlier on about getting your commitment that no longer will the people of Zamfara State sleep with their eyes, they not being able to close their eyes, their livelihoods, their lives, anything they're dependent on being threatened by these bandits. And perhaps how much of this technology and digitally aided equipment can help protect them. That's the kind of commitment I thought that you were going to give them tonight. Are you able to do that, Governor?
Well, Cheryl, let me confirm this to you that we have invested so much in the area of technology in fighting banditry. And as I said, part of the success we are recording now is because we invested so much in the area of technology. And I can assure the people of Zamfara State, very soon they should be able to go to sleep with their two eyes closed. It's an ongoing process, and we are fully perfecting the system as far as technology is concerned.
Let me ask you quickly, what did you capture in your proposal, in your state policing concept? What did you capture? Can you give us an insight into that?
No, when you say capture, what exactly are you talking about?
What was your own proposition? What is Zamfara State's position on state policing?
No. We're actually in support of the state policing. We submitted our own memorandum, and I'm sure it's being looked at. And not just Zamfara, almost about more than 90% of the states for the police, state police.
Now,
so that can have control. Yeah.
2025 is right here. What is your own idea of governance for the people of Zamfara State?
Well, I'm sure the people are seeing the dividend of democracy in every aspect, be it in terms of security, be it in the area of education, be it in the health factor, agriculture, as well as infrastructure. We've gone so far and we made significant progress in all these aspects. Like I always said, I would invite you to Zamfara to come and see for yourself, because seeing is believing. You agree with me that there has been significant progress so far in Zamfara State in all these aspects. And it's an ongoing process. By the time we spend 2 years in office, you will clearly see the difference between before and after.
The plight of persons that are displaced in all of this issue is a major one. The internally displaced persons, what are their hopes?
Most of the people now have gone back to their respective communities, except for a few local governments that are still working tirelessly day and night to make sure they also go back to their community. So just a matter of time. And I want them to be patient. It is something we inherited for over 12 years. But thank God now, things are changing for the better in Zamfara State.
Governor Dauda Lawal, thank you so much. It's also a day that we are remembering the fallen heroes, those who have fought gallantly on the front lines to protect our nation. Do you have a final word for some of them and their families?
Yes, I was there today to commiserate with people that lost their lives in the process, and I also made a commitment of support for the family of our fallen heroes. I will also continue to give assistance to the current armed forces, and that is the way forward. We are really concerned about their welfare, and I believe this will go a long way in helping their situation. May their soul rest in peace.
Amen. Thank you, Governor Dauda Lawal, for your from some of the insights you've given on the update on what is happening in your state. I wish you the very best and a peaceful Zamfara State in 2025.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Sure. Thank you.
We are grateful.
Let's turn our attention now to issues of communications, telecoms, digital economy, and what is happening in sector. A sector that's perhaps a key driver of Nigeria's growth, contributing over 16% to the GDP as of last quarter. Broadband penetration has risen to 47%, with a national target of about 70% by 2025. Questions remain about how we will bridge that gap, especially in rural areas in Nigeria. Nigerians are also concerned about the rising cost of data and call tariffs amidst inflation and economic challenges. The recently established Digital Trade Desk aims to position our digital economy globally. But what does it mean for local technology companies? And then there is the Nigeria Startup House in San Francisco, a bold initiative to showcase our innovation on a global stage. What is next? Joining us tonight is the Minister of Communications to unpack these pressing issues. The Minister, Mr. Bosun Tijani, is live for us. It's good to have you, and a happy new year to you, Minister.
Same to you, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here.
So, evidently, and we no running away from it, we will have a reviewed and upward review, that is to say, of Telecom's tariff. That is for a fact, isn't it?
It is a fact.
What margin should we be looking at? What percentage?
I think, Sean, what we brought into this conversation is the use of evidence and fact to engage. And every time I've had the opportunity to discuss this with you, I think we ensure that we use data for this engagement. And there's a clear reason for it. This is a sector that is absolutely important to our people. I think if you speak to stakeholders in this sector, they will tell you that they are very aware that some people actually buy airtime, credit, before they buy food. It's an extremely important one. But when you pay attention to the trajectory of the sector, telecommunications in particular, we did full liberalization of this sector in 1999. And if you look at the growth of the Nigerian GDP, you will see that immediately after that full liberalization, some of us that are old enough remember the days when we only had landlines at home. When this, absolutely, but when this technology was allowed to truly serve our people, the GDP of Nigeria started growing almost 30% year on year. You know, I asked people to go and look at this number. Many people didn't pay attention to it. When I was appointed, the first thing we did was to look at the GDP of a country, because the role of every minister is to contribute to the agenda of the government in terms of driving better lives for the people. So we actually articulated it, we planned it out, and we saw that growth. We looked at that time and said, were there any other things that changed in the society that could have led to the growth that we're seeing? And we couldn't find anything. And the way we can also attest to the change is in the level of productivity. The interview you just finished was done over broadband. Before that full liberalization, that wouldn't have been possible in Nigeria. If today we ask every Nigerian to drop their phone for 24 hours, just imagine what will happen. Or if today the internet goes off for just 24 hours, banking, health, trade, so many things will go down. This is a critical sector for our country. So when we came in, we saw the agitation of the MNOs, but we decided, you know what, it's our responsibility to ensure that, one, a sector that is contributing, like you said, about around 14 to 16, 18% to our GDP is an important sector. This sector employs, I think, over 15,000 people directly, and there's around 500,000 other people that are benefiting from working around this sector. It is important for us that we keep the sector alive, that we can't allow it to crash. But of course, technology communications is the heart and the engine that drives any economy. But at the same time, for us, it is important that our people can access meaningful connectivity. And by meaningful connectivity, we actually determine what that should look like. And that's a minimum of 25 Mbps if you live in the urban area, and a minimum of 10 Mbps if you live in the rural area. But this is the issue. The technology and the technical details behind that, Sheon, is that there are both physical and soft infrastructure that drives what we want to achieve, the quality that people expect. That means we're talking about towers that people have to physically invest in. We're talking about cables, whether it's the submarine cables that actually connect Nigeria to the rest of the world, or it's fiber optic cable, and in some cases, Coopers that are really the old versions of this cable. People have to invest in that. We're talking about data center. We're talking about energy, in some cases, batteries to power this location. There is a number of physical solutions that drives the production of this. And what we've seen is that over time, after NITEL, or whatever name we called it back in the days, we left the investment, the major investment in this infrastructure, to the private sector. And the private sector will only invest to an extent in areas where they can get medium to short-term returns, because that's how private capital works. If you look at every progressive country in the world, right, they've had to invest on the government side to ensure that you can plug the gap where people don't have access. And that's the first work we've done. We've done a lot of work around this. We've spoken about it extensively, where this government has decided that our job on one hand is to encourage these private companies to continue to invest in Nigeria. But we've also realized that their investment is not going to be enough, which is why government is actually announced the investment in the 90,000 fiber optic network. It's why the government is declared all telecommunications infrastructure as critical national infrastructure so that they don't get damaged easily. It is why we're now doing the assessment of even saying government should look for the development of some sort of SPV to invest in towers in locations where private companies will not invest, so that we can ensure that we can cover our people. And we know there's evidence to say, and if you improve the quality of connectivity in any country by 10%, you're bound to see about 2.5% increase in your GDP.
Minister, you've not told me, I asked specifically, what percentage, what margin of review, upward review are we expecting?
There's a study. That's exactly what I answered. That's not for a minister to tell you. This is the typical thing that people will do. In our sector, progressive countries must get independent consultants to look at the numbers. They have to look at the implication of any increase on the population, but also the sustainability of the sector. You have to balance the two. It is not enough.
So it's not arrived at.
Oh, no, the NCC is working on that. We've received the report from KPMG and Simon Cooper.
I was going to ask you specifically on the factors leading to that, but in your explanation, you've given us a background to where we got to the conversation around increase in tariff, and also the operators have been agitating since last year that there need to be an upward review.
For 6 years, actually, not just last year.
And it's one sector also that are saying a static review upwardly, and despite the changes in but however, any increase during this, you've said that the NCC will not approve 100% tariff hike. But the question is, are you prioritizing the profits of telecom companies over the survival of ordinary Nigerians?
I think you've answered your question yourself. You said we've already made it clear that we're not going to approve 100%. These companies are asking for 100%, stating clearly that this is what they believe they need to get. But what we're looking at in terms of the sustainability of the sector, if this is a sector that is responsible for driving growth in our country, it will be harmful on our people to allow the MNOs to increase by 100%. But what we're now doing that people are not paying attention to, and this is why we're saying it's about sustainability. We're asking difficult questions that is saying, can we possibly increase the local content in that sector? Meaning, can we reduce the amount of imports that is coming into that sector, which means they have to look for foreign exchange, which is more expensive. We've declared all their infrastructure as critical national infrastructure. That's something they've been looking for years. President Tinubu did that last year. The reason is that when people go and vandalize telecommunications equipment, it drops the quality of service that our people get, but it also costs this company a lot to repair. We're taking that away. If you look at the tax reform, for instance, there are a number of things there to harmonize taxes that they pay, to reduce it in a way that is good for the country, but also it allows these companies to thrive. We are, as a country, for instance, investing in that 90,000 kilometers that I mentioned. When we do the investment, it will allow these companies to be able to reach more people. If we're investing in towers in difficult-to-reach locations, in rural areas, it will give them the opportunity to increase the pool of customers that they have without making that heavy investment. So if you look at the KPMG reports, which I believe the final copy should be circulated shortly, there are a list of things that we recommended. And if you look at what we've been doing as well, I've been working hard on this.
Yeah.
There are a long list.
Do you have a percentage threshold?
For what
you said you will not approve 100%,
no,
and you have said the NCC should not.
Yeah.
But do you have a threshold?
I think they shouldn't. It shouldn't be more than anywhere between 30 to 60%. I don't think it should be more.
So there is a worry, and I want us to wrap up because there are other sectors under your ministry purview that we need to attend to tonight. But quickly, I look at it. And I look at what is globally acceptable standards. And I'll stay within the sub-Saharan Africa. Nigeria's telecom tariffs is reportedly to be among the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa. Critics have argued, and those who don't agree with the arguments of the operators about the quality of service, they say it does not even justify the minimum cost that they are charging. How is your ministry addressing the balance between affordable tariffs and ensuring high-quality service delivery to Nigerians?
I think that's what I started with. This is a technical conversation. I think anyone that wants to engage that conversation should spend time. We now have ChatGPT. It can help. Try to understand the formation of how the sector delivers services. It's about investment in infrastructure, and as they are investing in the infrastructure, the technologies are changing. Right? Things like 3G, they're going to be decommissioned at some point because you have to move to higher technology. So these folks have to keep investing in equipment. And we all know that there's been inflation, right? So for us, as we're protecting them, we recognize that we want them to keep importing capital. And if you look at what we've achieved as a sector, if you compare Q1 2024, the FDI flow to our sector, which is largely driven by some of these telecoms companies, was close to $199 million. And that was bigger than the entire inflow for 2023 as a whole. What we want them to do is to be able to invest, continue to invest. But we've also seen that where Nigeria wants to be, Mr. President is putting all the efforts in to ensure that we can take our economy to a $1 trillion economy. We cannot get there if MNOs are investing at a snail pace, which is why the government also recognized the fact that government must invest, de-risk and continue to invest where the MNOs will not invest.
That's your explanation indicts you as a regulator, Minister, because yes, you want to indulge them to be able to perform better by their investment. Indulging in the sense that those of us who are perhaps caught in the web of poor service delivery from all of these. And in other climes, Minister, as you would know, if there is going to be interruption, poor service delivery, the operators will have informed the public and their customers. The operators in Nigeria take customers for granted, Minister.
I beg to differ on this. As much as I wouldn't like to come on national TV and start defending operators on MNO, that's not my job. My job is to protect society, to ensure that I supervise the regulators to do the right things. A number of the things that leads to disruption in service, they are not things that you can be pre-warned on. As we're seated here, if someone damaged the fiber optic cable that serves this neighborhood, your network will go off nearly immediately.
But what happens?
They have redundancy
What happens, Minister, afterwards? No explanation.
What happens afterwards?
Nobody tells us why.
What happens afterwards in most cases, and I'm not here to take brief for the company. This is not a question I like asking. You asked it the last time as well. What happened afterwards, like every business, is that most of these organizations will get into action trying to identify the exact location and to fix that problem. That's what happens. In fact, let me give you an example. We want a better country, but I think we almost always must find a way to understand our wins are celebrated. Today, I am the global chair for a committee that has been set up by the International Telecommunications Union that is looking at the resilience of submarine cables all over the world. Submarine cables are cables that actually carry internet. The ones we see, that's the second level. The actual cable that carries most of the cables to Nigeria, about 7 of them, they connect us to countries like Portugal. That's where the origination of most of these things. And a lot of countries in Africa connect to it. The last submarine cable cut that happened in West Africa, it took Nigeria less than 24 hours to get back capacity up to about 90%. This was because we had companies that had clear redundancy plan and they were able to come together. Immediately that happened, I went to Geneva at the ITU to table that the world must have a clear protocol on how we manage those cable cuts, because we can't be moving everything online and as leaders not have a clear way of managing when there are cuts. Because cuts affect multiple countries, there are protocols that we have to follow in dealing with other countries to manage those things. And those protocols were not well set out. After that call, I put it online when I was in Geneva. After that call, ITU decided to start a global advisory board. In February, the first inaugural meeting of that board is going to happen in this Abuja.
Congratulations, Minister. We are proud of you.
With leaders from all over the world. What I want to highlight here is that there's so much that is going on. There's a lot of investment that we need to do. The hard work for us is to ensure that we do not allow these things to get out of hand to the point where our people cannot get access to it. We have the data set shown to show that there are over 90% Nigerians that can actually afford broadband-based connectivity. But the investment in broadband-based equipment is still less than 40%. Because it's significant investment.
Minister,
this is why government must invest in it. The private sector must invest in it for our people to benefit.
You may disagree with me, but I will keep saying it. If you appear on this program 100 times, I will say the plan, because I've seen it happen in other climes. If there is a disruption or there is some interruption in service delivery, customers pay money for service, even one way or the other, either by way of natural causes or whatever, and which people understand. Nigerians are very understandable and accommodating people.
And I totally agree with you.
I say to you, Minister, that operators in the telecom sector in Nigeria take Nigerians for granted. Just a moment, sir. In other climes, people will be given free data. As to say apologies for the disruption in Nigeria.
I don't disagree.
Do they apologize?
I don't disagree.
And because of that, I want to ask you, Minister, tonight, to commit to Nigerians that you will no longer allow operators to take Nigerians for granted. Enough is enough for these guys to take. They are paying for it. It's a liberated sector.
The fact is, I would like more for this sector to be a beacon of hope in terms of how we engage. I challenge everyone as I'm talking to you, as at yesterday, NCC signed an agreement with FCCPC for them to join hands to ensure that customer service in the sector will be totally different moving forward. When we came into office, there's something that I call quality of service that people talk about. This is how you measure the quality that you're getting from the MNOs. We decided to expand it and we changed it to something that is called quality of experience. NCC has been working on that. The EVC there has been working on it. And the idea is understanding that the way our people should experience the services from the MNOs must be different. Right? Like I said to you, I don't want to take brief for them. When I was talking about the process they go through to fix stuff, that's a different thing. But in terms of holding them accountable, in fact, it is part of what we're saying that for us to increase tariff, they must commit to a minimum standard, which I expect people to hold me accountable for, which I'm going to hold them.
I'm going to hold you by the trouser, Minister.
Please, by all means. And I will do same to NCC, and NCC is going to do the
because
same
it's important. I mean, you can't, if I pay for something, drop calls, bad data connection, and nothing.
Actually, you know what we're even working on that we've not spoken about? The cost of powering the towers. We have over 40,000 towers in this country. A significant portion of them are powered by diesel. Now the sector is coming together to use clean energy. A number of these companies have started investing.
And it will reduce their...
It's going to reduce their cost and
also for the atmosphere, it's better.
It's better as
well.
But
my last question, Minister, because I need to go to broadband, I need to go to what you went to San Francisco to do, because that's also very critical. The International Telecommunications Union, the ITU, recommends that telecom costs should not exceed 2% of an individual's monthly income. Of course, you know the minimum wage in Nigeria. And you look at what Nigerians will spend on data and call services. How do you plan to address the disparity? If you look at the percentage in which you said it will not be more than, definitely it might be more than the 2% of what ITU recommends. How do you balance that?
Again, Sean, there's something we have in public that I spoke about for the first time mid last year that we're launching formally, I believe in February, called the Broadband Alliance. What you get in countries all over the world is ensuring that you can balance the cost of service to people based on their economic class. And there are times that you don't necessarily do that through the MNOs. There are times that you have to take on community projects that will support. When we officially launch the Broadband Alliance, which we've piloted with, for instance, this is through the platform through which we've given free connectivity to local government secretariats. We're piloting, when we announced this, in 6 university campuses, not just their classrooms. In campuses, we're piloting using existing government fiber network to provide affordable connectivity to hostels. I've had conversations with ISPs who made it clear that if government was able to de-risk, they're working on the model, and don't hold me accountable for this, but they're working on the model to charge as low as 3,000 naira a month for a university student in their campus, unlimited internet. There are things that we need to do as a nation to truly ensure that our people can have access to meaningful connectivity. And those things will not just be what they consume on their mobile. There's a company that is coming around Abuja next week that we're signing an agreement that is already working on fiber to home. This is a movement that started in Nigeria that this government is enabling. Certain homes will now be able to have fiber internet the way you have all over the world. These are the parts to being able to use quality internet, not just on your phone, but on all the devices that you have. And anywhere you find yourself.
If you can, Minister,
yes.
When you travel to Atlanta at the airport, at the entrance of the airport, you almost immediately get connected to the free internet.
I wouldn't do that because I'm a minister, so I have to be careful. Free Wi-Fi.
But it's not always very good because the gateway, and you never can trust that. And some of the issues, they will demand data from you. Absolutely. But what I'm driving at is that you get free internet in most parts of the world in public places, and whether or not, if you can, let our airports, all our airports, get some free. If you can talk to these guys, it may not cost them anything.
This is part of what we'll do with the broadband alliance. We have to also say the last minister actually did some pilots around this project, but a lot of them were just not structured in a sustainable manner when it was done. And this is part of what we're doing with our broadband alliance to ensure that we find models for connecting our schools. We want to find models for connecting our hospitals. Mr. Pate has been working on projects that will actually find affordable means of connecting hospitals across this country. There are foundational works that we need to do in Nigeria, unfortunately.
Minister,
but this administration is prioritizing.
Quickly, I have 2 important issues, the broadband and the San Francisco. I may not be able to go to the digital trade desk tonight. But the broadband, the last time we had a conversation, you told us the latest and the update on the construction and development of the broadband infrastructure. Where are we at? How many kilometers is left now?
We've not laid. What we said to you is we have to raise 2 billion. And that's the process.
How much
for
do we
those.
have now?
World Bank is already committed $500 million to this project, and we have other donors who are committing. We're working hard with the World Bank. They've committed to push us through. If everything aligns, National Assembly, everything comes together, for us to get to the point where we sign and they release their parts by the end of the summer, which is end of Q2 into Q3. My personal ambition is that we should start digging the ground to lay this fiber by Q3, sometimes in September, October. That's what I'm.
And it will take how long to complete?
Typically, 90,000 kilometers is significant. In some countries, this will take 5-6 years. What we are doing is actually starting a training program that will focus on increasing the pool of companies with the capacity to do this work. Also, remember that it takes special equipment to also dig. Part of what we're doing is to see whether, as a country, we can collectively import civil work equipment that can help these small businesses to support our development. It's going to be an aggressive project. I want everybody to understand this. We've spoken a lot about it. It's a process. We're working day and night to ensure that we get there, securing the money, getting the companies, and actually creating jobs in the process. And one thing we're also doing is, if we can lay 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic network in Nigeria, Nigeria will become a regional leader. And we can start to support other countries, which means our companies can then serve neighboring countries as well.
So quickly, I have just about 60 seconds or thereabout. One of the things that President said is that he will provide digital economy-based jobs.
Yes.
How many has he provided?
Oh, significant. Unfortunately, I didn't come here harmonizing all of them to be able to tell you, but significant. If you look at the 3MTT program that we've done, which is done in phases. Last year, we started first with 30,000. We did 60,000, 90,000. At least about 30% of those people are in one job or the other. There's a company in Lagos called Awari alone that is engaging over 4,000 people in building large language models. These are young people.
Can you harmonize the figure and put it on your Twitter handle?
Of course, we'll do
Let
that.
Nigerians know.
We'll do that.
How much of jobs have been created in digital economy? And I don't have more time to hold you by the trouser, but your trouser will be by my hand a lot of the times, Minister.
Sure, that's what I want to see, but use fact and data, because we want you to engage us on fact
Absolutely.
and data.
That's what I'll try to do as much. Finally, I know you've gone to San Francisco. We have a Silicon Valley right in the heart of Ikeja, our own Ikeja Computer Village. But I know that also is going to be cited somewhere. But yes, on a serious note, the Nigerian startup house in Silicon Valley, with your plan is to position Nigeria tech startups on the global stage. What exactly is this going to help us do?
I think it's very straightforward. So if you follow the technology ecosystem, you know about the technology startups in Nigeria. When I joined the tech ecosystem in Nigeria about 15 years ago, when I started CCO, Nigeria was not listed amongst the destination for investment in tech startup at all. Today, Nigeria is anywhere between number 1, 2, or 3. And Nigeria gets about $1 billion in startup funds that comes to our companies. A lot of people will know companies like Flutterwave, Paystack, Money Point, and the likes. A lot of them, I think Lemfi just raised 53 million yesterday. A lot of these companies, about over 90% of them, the source of their capital is from probably the 4th largest economy in the world, which is the California area, the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where all the technology investors, the biggest ones in the world, that's where they're based. So 90% of the funding to our technology companies, they come from that area. And a lot of these companies, to be able to raise money, they typically join 1 or 2 programs, accelerator programs. These accelerator programs have a limit to how many Nigerian startups they can take, because they take companies from all over the world. Luckily for us, our forefathers invested in a lovely properties on one of the most expensive streets in San Francisco. Belongs to Nigeria. It's not been used for the last 25 years. This government has decided that that building will become a house for technology startup from Nigeria, government building, 10 of them every quarter. We have the opportunity to be able to call that place their home in San Francisco. And we have Nigerians in diaspora there that have committed to helping them, holding their hand and helping them to access people. When I visited this house for the second time, because I finally got the keys to go see the interior, the neighbor was coming back and he was parking. And I approached him and said, "Hi, my name is Bosun Tijani, the minister of blah, blah, blah. What do you do?" He said, "I'm an investor," and he's with one of the biggest, co-founder of one of the biggest investment company in the Bay Area. This is what the Bay Area is all about. That's where all the monies are like. And we released, in our tech platform, we said our goal is that by 2027, we want inflow, FDI to Nigerian startup to go from $1 billion to $5 billion a year. That's why we're doing this work.
Good news, and Jerry, a lot of tech startups, those who are thinking, don't think, act right now. These are opportunity, and let's verify and also go after some of these opportunities. But thank you so much, Honorable Minister Bosun Tijani. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. I'll see you next time. God bless Nigeria.